Ravens flock. The flock rundown is the place to be. My man Ryan has been a lifelong Ravens fan since he was born. So I'm telling you now, it's about to go down. The podcast, the flock rundown. Ravens, baby. Nothing gets better than waking up and wondering how high we can fly. Tune in.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.
Appreciate you, Ray. What's up, Ravens fans? My name is Ryan, and welcome back to another episode of the Flock Rundown. So it's been a week. It's been a week since the loss. I took this week off, even making content, just because I needed to reset. This loss stung all week, honestly. I still don't feel good about it. I still don't understand exactly how it happened. Only scoring 10 points, only running the ball 6 times. It's mind-blowing, but we'll go over the end of the year presser. We'll go over some coaching staff changes and just where I kind of see the Ravens moving forward from here. We'll get the negative news out of the way first. A lot of staff on the Ravens is gone, especially defensive coaching staff, but we'll start with Joe Ortiz, who was hired by the Chargers to be their general manager, so congrats to him. He's been a huge piece of the Ravens scouting department and just a right-hand man to Eric DeCosta throughout these years and to Ozzie earlier on, and has been a part of the Ravens organization for a long time. But this job's well-deserving. I don't want to say that it's not. It sucks to lose a guy like that, but he's going to have a big role in the Chargers. And Jim Harbaugh is the Chargers head coach now, so they might be trying to build a little bit of a Ravens culture over there. We'll see. I know Jim Harbaugh and John Harbaugh do operate a little bit differently, but I think the Chargers plucking Ortiz from Baltimore to be their GM says a lot, and it's a respect to the organization and to him. So congrats to him. It's a loss for us, but he'll do well there. And then our defensive coaching staff is gone. I mean, let's just be real. We lose Mike Macdonald. Our defensive coordinator is now the head coach in Seattle. That's a big blow. I was hoping that we could hold on to him sometime, and we'll touch into the end of the year presser towards the end of this episode, but John Harbaugh said in that presser that they'd love to keep Macdonald, but there was no way he wasn't taking that Seattle head coaching job. So congrats to Mike Macdonald. He's also well-deserving, young head coach on the rise, and I think he signed a 6-year deal to be Seattle's head coach, and they got a great organization over there too, so I'm sure he's going to have a lot of success. I am very disappointed and sad that couldn't figure out some way to keep him or, maybe put him into a head coach role. I know that's a big move, but I just thought that Mike Macdonald really, really rallied with the players and also was just a great, great defensive mind. And what better mind to have in Baltimore than a defensive mind? It is what it is. It's not unexpected. I was expecting a lot of these changes to happen, especially Mike Macdonald, and he is officially gone. We also lost Denard Wilson, our D-backs coach. He is now the defensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. We also lost Anthony Weaver, our D-line coach, who is now the defensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins. So there's a lot of open positions. Our defensive staff, like I said, is gone basically. But the Ravens did promote within for the new defensive coordinator, and they went with Zach Orr, who's only 31, which is really crazy that he's already moved up the coaching ladder that fast. I remember felt like a few years ago he was playing on the Ravens. And just a great story, though, for him to be an undrafted rookie, make the team, ball out. And then he had that terrible neck injury, spinal injury, where they said he couldn't play anymore. The Ravens keep him around, let him intern with the coaches and kind of just dive into that world. And he's quickly climbed the ladder and is already the Ravens defensive coordinator. So I would imagine he's probably going to be the Ravens defensive coordinator for at least a couple of years here. And I don't know how he's going to call plays. We've never seen that. He's never been a defensive coordinator before, but he has played a linebacker position, which is center field, basically, the communicators to the rest of the defense. You got to understand the entire defense very well to play a linebacker position at a high level. So I feel like his mind is obviously there. And I also trust John Harbaugh to pick the right guy. He's done that. He's proven that over the years. Very, very rarely do we have a coach. I know people are going to bring up Greg Roman or whatever, but Greg Roman was actually like a really good hire for a few years. So I think that he stuck with him too long. But I also trust that John Harbaugh makes pretty good decisions with coaching staff. We have a lot of guys constantly leaving, getting promoted elsewhere, and that's a sign that they're succeeding in Baltimore. So I think that if Harbaugh's trusting Orr to be the new defensive coordinator, then I got to trust that. And all the players, especially the defensive players who have played with Zach Orr, are super excited about him. Van Noy spoke up. Queen spoke up. There's a lot of guys who are, saying he's well-deserving, and I think that he'll do well in this job. I think that we got a nice foundation on defense. We're definitely going to lose some free agents. We'll talk about that too. We're definitely going to lose a couple guys. We lost a lot of the coaching staff, but I think that our defense will still be solid. Will it take a step back from this year? Yeah, most likely. I mean, our defense was insanely stacked. Mike McDonald is a defensive genius. I'm not saying Zach Orr can't, become that or whatever, but it would be tough to expect that immediately. You're not going to just jump in your first time ever being a defensive coordinator and kind of match what Mike McDonald's done. I mean, he got shipped off to Michigan to be a defensive coordinator just to get some experience before he came to Baltimore and then was here for 2 years. So we're talking 3 years of being a defensive coordinator. Zach Orr's never done it, so we'll see. I definitely am excited about it, though. I think that's a good move. I think the players are going to love him. I think he's going to be a vocal players coach, and that's always a good thing. So I think they made a good hire with that. We're going to have to fill out the rest of the staff now, though. There are so many holes. We don't have a D-line defensive coach. We don't have a linebackers coach. We don't have a D-backs coach. I mean, there's a lot of holes, so I'm interested to see. And we'll keep talking about it as they do make hires and make different moves. But we'll see how this defensive staff fills out because it's going to be vastly different than this year. And a lot of the players on the defense are going to be vastly different. We have a long list of free agents, and that's probably led by Patrick Queen and Justin Madubuike, Geno Stone. If I had to guess, I would say Queen's definitely gone. I just don't think it makes a lot of sense to pay him top dollar as much as I want him. There's no disrespect to Queen. I'd love him to stay in Baltimore. I know he would love to stay in Baltimore, but just the feeling of hearing him talk and hearing Eric DeCosta talk at the presser, I feel like Queen's gone. I feel like he's going to be too much. He's had an incredible year. He's priced himself out of Baltimore to be the second linebacker, essentially. We already paid Roquan top dollar, so it would be a stretch to pay Queen that as well. And we have Trenton Simpson underneath Queen, who's definitely not going to be Patrick Queen immediately, but is got a lot of talent, plays really well. And I think being next to Roquan for a year or two you're going to really see his game level up, just like you saw Patrick Queen's game level up. So I think Queen's going to be gone. I think Geno Stone's probably going to be gone, unless the market isn't as hot as I think for him. I don't think he's going to get top dollar, but he had a lot of interceptions, which is just naturally going to lead to some team paying you more than Baltimore wants to pay you. But we'll see. I'd love to keep any of these guys that we can. The other big name that I think could potentially stay is Justin Madubuike. I don't know if they'll be able to get a deal done, but the franchise tag is also on the table, so we are able to keep him if needed, and I feel like that franchise tag is who they would use it on, is Justin Madubuike. So that's a guy that I'd love to keep around, and I think that there's a real possibility they do keep around, but we'll see. There's also a chance we move on and let a lot of these guys go just to kind of keep some flexibility and maybe put some more money towards the offense. So we'll see how it shapes out. I'll be here the whole way talking it through with you guys, but that's kind of where we stand with free agents. Obviously, there's a lot of veteran free agents too, Clowney, Van Noy. I'm not sure where they're going to go, if they're going to keep playing or what the move is. We got to make a decision on Odell Beckham. Are we going to bring back Nelson Aguilar? Kevin Zeitler's also another free agent that I feel like a deal is going to get done. They've already been talking. Zeitler said he wants it to get done quick as long as the business works out. I just really feel like Kevin Zeitler is going to stay here, but you never know until it's done. So we'll see. But regardless, we're going to be looking at a pretty different team in 2024. The foundation, like I said, is there of superstars. You still got Lamar and Mark Andrews, and you got Zay Flowers on offense. You got decent line. Tyler Linderbaum's definitely going to be there, but we're going to have to make some changes. Then on defense, Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, Brandon Stevens is back again as well. There's a lot of foundational pieces there that you can build around. So it's not like we're going to have a bad team, but are we going to have as dominant of a team as we had this year? My guess would be no. We're just going to lose too many guys. Even if you replace them through the draft or whatever, it takes time for those guys to really start making a serious impact on the field outside of maybe your first rounder or whatever. But most guys aren't going to just jump in and thrive right away. So it takes time to kind of rebuild that really, really stacked team. And we are tight against the cap. We're not able to just go out and buy free agents and keep all of our free agents. It's not going to happen. So the last thing I want to touch on is that end of the year presser. I never put a ton of weight into it. I watch it and kind of just try and find little cues of, the vibe they're giving off or the way they say things, just because it's the same thing every year, especially when we lose. Maybe when we win the Super Bowl one of these years and we have an end of year presser, it'd be a nice celebration. But it's usually the same thing. You hear, oh, well, we were outcoached, we were outplayed, and it's like, that sucks to hear, We've been so dominant, it sucks to hear that you were outsmarted in the biggest game in Baltimore. And it's just tough. You score 10 points, you run the ball 6 times. That's what Harbaugh was asked about, and he's like, oh, well, they showed us a stacked box, and, we couldn't run against it, or we decided not to try to run against it. That's not smart, in my opinion. I know they showed a stacked box and they were blitzing. I understand that. Every team's going to want to do that now. So you gotta still run and bring bigger personnel on offense and say, all right, let's man up. And at least that keeps them honest. It activates play action to work better. And I just feel like we just completely abandoned the run. Harbaugh also kind of tossed Lamar under the bus a little bit. He said, a lot of the offense was in Lamar's control and he had a lot of options. And every time he lined up, it was a stacked box. So we went pass. And it's like, all right, well, if that's not working over the course of a game and Lamar does have that much control, I feel like the coaches need to be there to step in and be like, hey, no, we're going to have to run a little bit and just kind of talk. I'm not sure exactly how those conversations or dynamic went. We won't know that. We don't hear everything. But I'm just saying, I feel like it's the coach's job to kind of, change the game a little bit. If the player may be making the wrong decisions or not playing the best, then the coaches need to step in and make those adjustments, and it just never happened. So whether it was on the coaches, on Lamar, whatever, it didn't happen. We ran the ball 6 times, which is just absolutely embarrassing. We're the best rushing team in football, and we only scored 10 offensive points in an AFC Championship game at home. So it still stings. It's ridiculous. There's no reason that should ever happen, but it happened. And the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl playing the Niners. We should be there, but we're not. I don't even want to watch the Super Bowl, to be honest with you guys. But yeah, end of the year presser, just not a lot of key information. I felt like the Eric DeCosta side, you got a little bit more information. The way he talked about Ronnie Stanley kind of makes it seem like Ronnie might be gone. He's like, oh, well, it's been kind of impossible it's not Ronnie's fault, but the injuries have made it impossible for him to play at a high level, and this is a big offseason for him. And he was just making these statements where I'm like, Ronnie has a huge, huge cap hit this year. Would we move on? And if we do, we need to find a replacement fast, because you don't want to just have a hole at left tackle. I feel like that's like arguably the most important position on the line. And it's hard to trust Stanley. It really is. He just hasn't played at a high level in years. It comes and goes. He has a game or two here and there where you're like, okay, he's back. And it's like, no, he's not, though. He's not fully back consistently. And I know it's not his fault. His body is breaking down on him a little bit, and he's just had a hard time recovering from these injuries and getting back to form. But that's important when you're one of the most highest paid players on the team. You got to perform or you're going to get let go. So we'll see what happens with that. I would not be surprised either way. I'd not be surprised if they say, hey, work your butt off, come back and try and be the best you can. We're going to give you one more year. And I wouldn't be shocked if they're saying, hey, we got to move on, man. We got to cut ties. Your cap hits too much. We got to get younger, more athletic tackles in here. There's a lot of moves to be made, a lot of free agent decisions, a lot of extension or not extension decisions, a lot of coaching staff fill outs on defense especially. So A lot of moves are going to be made. The offseason has officially begun. I'm already looking at the draft and the free agency and, what's going on with retooling this team. That's how I feel. I'm done with this season. I don't care what happens in the Super Bowl. It's the offseason for me, which brings excitement. It's a positive way to look at it because that loss is going to sting. It's going to sting all offseason. But if you turn your attention to, all right, how are we going to, come back and be great in 2024, 2025, and hopefully win a Super Bowl, which I think is in New Orleans next year, which would be kind of crazy because that's where we won the Super Bowl in 2012. So if we can go back to New Orleans and win another one 12 years later, that'd be pretty sick. But let me know your guys' thoughts. Let me know what you think about the coaching moves and which coaches would you bring in, which free agents would you sign, which ones would you let go, would you move on from Ronnie Stanley? There's a lot of things that I'd be interested to hear what your guys' thoughts are. So drop those in the comments. As always, guys, I appreciate you for tuning in to another episode of the Flock Rundown. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys next time.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.